Welcome to the 24th episode of the Honor Society, covering all things Ring of Honor, live from No Cell Studios at the Ace of the Tavern, Acefield Retro. And as always, joined by my partner, so filled with honor, at Mullet.mania, Colton. What's up, dude?
What's going on, brother? Good to be here. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, man. We had, a good episode, shorter episode of Ring of Honor right now. It seems like they're varying the time, especially not having a TV deal. It could be 2 hours, it could be an hour and a half, could be an hour. We're not even sure at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like it. It keeps us on our toes. I honestly, I think sometimes it makes for a better show to just kind of go with what you got for the week and let it take the amount of time it takes instead of having to either add time or cut shit short when you're getting, pigeonholed into a time frame with a TV deal and commercials and things like that. So yeah, I'm all for it. Keeps it fresh, that's for sure.
Yeah, and this was taped in Pittsburgh 2 weeks ago, so I'm trying my best to stay away from spoilers, and hopefully you guys are too. And it's becoming a little bit harder to find the spoilers unless you're looking for them at this point. I'm not sure if you felt the same way.
No, 100%, man. I didn't see a single spoiler this week. It was great. I do a pretty good job of staying away from them to begin with, but yeah, I feel like this week you really had to go dig. The only thing I saw the match card announced on Ring of Honor's Instagram page today, like when they posted it. So I was right on time with everything and didn't have anything ruined for me, which was great.
Yeah, and I think that's the best part about this. And, you and I were talking about the beginning of the show with them taping in bulk, and they may get back to that. Obviously, we'll talk about in the news too, as we get to it. But returning to form of taping in bulk, which will be convenient for the crew there. But there's a lack of suspense because you know that a lot of the spoilers come out very, very quickly, and we'll see some pictures of things. And I think if you do it week to week, a week removed, there's a lot of wrestling news that kind of muddy the water where it's not at the forefront as much as it would be.
Yes, certainly. You don't have people who are sit there at Universal Studios for, 8 hours at a time live tweeting as they go. So yeah, it gives a little bit more space in between, which helps us out a little bit.
Well, speaking of that, let's get to the scoop and talk about some of the things for ROH, the news that's been popping up this week. All right, so it's been pretty quiet on the ROH side as far as news goes, but there's some things that popped in here, and obviously we saw Roderick Strong pop up on AEW television. He may have a piece in whatever they're doing here in ROH. He's a big legacy here, but that's not part of the news. Big piece of the news was returning to Universal Studios for a weekend of TV tapings this May. You mentioned before taping in bulk, but it was announced today that ROH will hold TV tapings at Universal Studios in Orlando, Florida this Saturday. It was Saturday, May 6th and Sunday, May 7th. The Saturday tapings will take place from 6 to 10 p.m. Eastern, and the Sunday show will begin at 4 and end at 7, which has me believing if they're doing hour-long shows, Colton, we could potentially have four to 7 weeks worth of TV taped all the way in Orlando, and it will be convenient for them, but not as great for us.
Yeah, man, 100%. I mean, if we're going hour a show, that's potentially 8 weeks of TV. It'd be hard to avoid spoilers when you're taping that much in bulk. I mean, I do the one advantage I do think they have when they tape in bulk at the studio is that I feel like, as the ring announcer and everybody, you kind of get an opportunity to hype the crowd up and let them know that, hey, this is the show open. We're doing a show open. Everybody on their feet. Everybody get excited, because sometimes when we see this week to week filming after a Dynamite show, sometimes the crowd's a little flat depending on how much they had to sit through previously. So, I mean, yeah, you see the same people over and over, but you do have that advantage of being able to let the crowd know when you need the most heat out of them when you're in a studio session. Whereas when you're going after Dynamite, you don't really get that opportunity.
Yeah, I agree with you. And aesthetically, I like the way Universal Studios looks better than the Dynamites. Like you said, prior or after Dynamite, the crowd is sparse or sometimes uninterested. These people are showing up for these tapings specifically for ROH, so hopefully they have some vested interest in the product. Tickets right now are ranging from $20 per night or $30 for a 2-day combo ticket, which is a great deal if you're in the Orlando area for a lot of wrestling, and you get to see some of your favorite stars that vary from ROH to AEW. There's some big names that have been showing up, so I think it's worth the price of admission.
100% worth the price of admission. If I lived in Orlando, I'd be at every single one buying a 2-day pass. That's awesome. Hell, I might even look to see what a round trip ticket to Orlando from Louisville is right now. So Legion's
Yeah,
always
it's
running
awesome.
some deals up here.
It reminds me of when they were taping NXT in Orlando, where they're taping in bulk and you can just show up and pay that student price. I mean, Full Sail University was giving the student ID thing, but for $30 for a 2-day pass, that's potentially, as we mentioned, if they're doing 2 hours, it could be anywhere from 4 to 5 shows or 4 to 5 weeks. But if it's like this week where you have an hour of programming, you can look at like, I mean, at this point, they could be taped all the way through middle of June at this point.
Yeah, man, that's gosh, that's wild to think about.
So, as you remember, the first weekly TV series earlier this year was taped in this same place, Universal Studios. 4 episodes were taped, and we did talk about the difference of taping at the AEW event. And I think aesthetically, as we mentioned before, I think the Universal Studios offers a better viewing pleasure for the audience. I think there's a lot to be said about showing up and knowing the ROH product. I mean, I could speak to being at the UBS tapings they taped it right after Dynamite. And, you know, some fans are just not knowledgeable to the ROH brand and some don't have any interest in learning about it. So that was a huge piece that really detracted from the tapings when I watched it back on TV and also watching it live in the building. It was definitely noticeable that the fans were not as interested and the atmosphere was not as good as it would be at Universal. Even after 6 hours of tapings, I think the fans that would show up would be diehards.
Oh, absolutely, man. And you got people who are going to these ROH tapings are going for ROH. They're not just passive fans who are like, oh man, it's a wrestling show, let's go. Everybody's invested. And too, man, I mean, I hate to nitpick, but the studio shows give it's a little bit, like you said earlier, it's a little bit more the aesthetic that I'm looking for. Like, I hate to nitpick the red, white, and blue ropes showing up on ROH TV, but it does throw me off. I mean, it just, automatic, like, okay, this was taped 1 to 2 weeks ago, either prior to Dynamite or after Dynamite. And, I just, red, white, and blue, I mean, man, Ring of Honor is always, black, white, and red. I don't need to see that blue at all. I mean, it just throws it off a little bit for me, takes me a little bit out of it. But like I said, that's nitpicking. So, I mean, I know you and I have also discussed, it would be really cool to see them eventually go back and do some of the venues that Ring of Honor of old used to go to. I would still really like to see that. But I'm looking forward to them. Besides having to avoid spoilers, I'm looking forward to getting back to some bulk tapings and just for the look of things over at Universal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think until they get their feet under them as far as profitability and understanding of what the product is, I think they're going to have to stick to these tapings. And it's not so bad, but it's not the ROH. It's not the long-term plan. I mean, we look at old WCW Saturday Night. What took WCW to the next level was stepping out of those bulk studio tapings and going elsewhere and going live. And I'm not saying ROH is equipped. I mean, they're always going to be secondary to AEW in Tony Khan's mind, but I think that's really not the intention for it. And if they're going to be living, breathing in a brand that's on an equivalent level, they can't just be living in a studio for the remainder of time. I think this is a stopover to figure out what they're going to be in the future. And it may take until the fall until they get their legs under them and people really understand what the identity of Ring of Honor will be going forward.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely studio life for them's got a shelf life, and hopefully it's shorter rather than longer.
And the only other story here in the news for the Scoop, we have Prince Nana discussing Ring of Honor under the new owner, Tony Khan. And Prince Nana he's currently with ROH right now, with the Embassy being the manager. And he's also a face that we are very familiar with in ROH. If you're a big ROH fan, he's been with them for quite some time. So he's seen the different eras of ROH and what it's brought, whether it be Sinclair or, as he mentions, Carrie Silken. He has a vested interest in understanding what ROH is. And he was appearing on the Sessions podcast with Renee Paquette to discuss the topic, which included him comparing Tony Khan to the previous owner, Carrie Silken. So Prince Nana said Tony Khan's love of pro wrestling is why he may not mind ROH losing him money right at the very beginning, and that talent should realize how lucky they are to work under such a man. So this is the exact quote. He said, he as an individual loves pro wrestling, and he is the new CEO of this famous world-acclaimed company. He does not want to see this lose under his direction. So that's why ROH right now, anyone who's on the roster right now, anyone who's working right now is very lucky that we are working under this administration. He continues saying that when Carrie Silken had the business, he had his heart and soul and his foot in business. He had his foot in it, and it was his thing. This for me, and I kind of feel that with Tony. So high praise from Tony. And every time an ROH person that is bred with the company, with the brand, talks about TK, it feels like they all recognize the passion and they think it's in good hands. So, I mean, it's all good things coming from other people.
Yeah, man, always good to hear that from anybody, and especially Prince Nana, man. I think, like you mentioned, he's been with ROH for a long, long time. I got to go back and listen to this episode. I'm behind on sessions with Renee right now. I actually just listened to the Moxley episode earlier this week, so yeah, I got to go back and check this one out. I'm sure it's a good one.
I'm actually looking up because I did not listen to, and it says session, so I'm assuming it's Renee Paquette. So I'm looking up right now to make sure it is.
It definitely is. When I went to listen, when I went to listen to Mox earlier this week, I saw that was the newest episode. So
okay, good, because I saw it, I was like, oh, I didn't see it pop up my timeline. But when I said sessions, it's either copyright infringement on someone else's end or Renee Paquette did interview Prince Nana. But it's cool to hear people talking about Tony Khan in this light because we have to remember he is a fan. I go back to the MSG Ring of Honor, New Japan Pro Wrestling Super Show. He was in the building back when that happened, main evented with Okada winning the title. And that is something like you can't take away. You want these brands and this business in somebody that has this love and passion for it. And I think, like you said, this is going to lose money at first. And in order for it to grow as a brand and continue to prosper, he's going to have to take a loss, and I think he's okay with it. Is his dad okay with it? Is his accountant okay with it? Who knows? But I think Tony Khan recognizes that there's value in having this history. And I still stand by having the history of ROH and being able to start a streaming service that is organized with the AEW live programming on it to build a base with this ROH history, with the guys that have come through the doors here, whether it be Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, Bryan Danielson, go down the list of every guy that's worked in this business through ROH. What could you ask for? That is worth its weight in anything. And then on top of it, he's creating new content. It's just a beautiful thing.
It is, man. And it's always really refreshing to hear it come from fellas in the business that, they're pleased with what TK is doing, especially, I feel like Tony gets drugged through the mud by trolls online pretty often for being a fanboy and being, a little off or a little odd in some respects. So it's always nice to hear, praise coming from the folks who really matter.
Yeah, the one thing that people cannot take away from Tony Khan is his love for professional wrestling. Whether you agree with the decisions he makes or whether you agree with the style of his booking, he loves pro wrestling. This is his thing. It's not like he's a guy who just happened to fall into it. He's not Ted Turner, who's like learning the business on the fly, happened to have a lot of money and see that wrestling could be profitable. Tony Khan just loves it. And I think that's also part of the reason ROH wound up in his hands. And there was a time and place where ROH was almost purchased by WWE just to be a little tab on the WWE network. And it's so awesome that whether the TV show takes off and whether it winds up being this huge thing where it grows bigger than anyone thought it could be, who knows? But I think just the fact that the whole anthology and the history of ROH will continue to thrive under Tony Khan's watch and have this be protected and utilized in a appropriate way. I think that is perfect. And I think that's worth its money.
Oh, definitely worth the money, man. I'm sure. I mean, the Cons have got some deep pockets. I don't think anybody's, and they've got enough other revenue streams that I don't think they're worried about losing a little money on ROH here. But man, I could see, when he first, I was surprised when they made the announcement that he bought it, because I'm sure his accountant was probably a little worried about that decision, because he's already dumped all this money. We're not very far into AEW yet, and he bought the library and bought the rights to ROH. But I'll never stop being thankful that he did, because man, it's just so nice that there never would have been an opportunity for there to be a new era of honor for if WWE had bought it, or even if there was, I wouldn't want to see it. So it's in great hands, and I'm glad to see where it's at.
Yeah, the model they want to move against has to be, they'll have to look at how ECW was bastardized by WWE. And I think we've been kind of critical on the presentation of ROH as far as what they could do better. But at the end of the day, I feel like this is authentic to who ROH was as a brand, and they're obviously growing in a different direction. It's not going to be the same, and there's things that can be fixed, but it feels authentic to who it is, and they're doing the best they can with the resources they currently have at their fingertips. So I'm okay with it. And I also think they're doing right by the legacy. If you look through the legacy of ROH, it's not, Vince McMahon being the ECW champion back in the day. It's certainly in line to what they would have done if they continued.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I think it speaks volumes. Like, you wouldn't have guys like Christopher Daniels around if that wasn't the case.
Yes. All right. So let's get into this week of TV show. And this opened up pretty hot. We had Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman. They were joined by Nigel McGuinness at ringside. This was taped in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So you could see some of the terrible towels in the crowd during the taping. This was taped last Wednesday. So they've been taping prior or after Dynamite. This seems like it was after Dynamite. So we have an opening match here with the ROH Women's World Title Proving Ground match. And this was Athena versus Lady Frost. And Lady Frost was someone who stuck out to us in the first batch of tapings, those 4 episodes, as we talked about the young emerging women's roster here in ROH. Lady Frost is someone who's like kind of honed her craft on the independent scene, but she's really shined here in a short period of time in ROH. If you want to take the lead and tell us about this match.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I mean, also, I was just super happy to see a proving ground match. It's something that I've been a little critical, as we haven't seen a ton of proving ground matches in this new era of ROH. So really happy to see that tonight. And yeah, man, Frost, she showed out, man. She definitely showed off her acrobatic skills and showed that she's got a bit of a lucha libre background. I know she spent some time in Mexico, but she got the upper hand on Athena pretty early on. She took her up and over with a head scissors right at the beginning. Athena kicked her in the face on an up and over in the corner to take control, but Frost laid in some shots after Athena paintbrushed her. Athena dropped her with a backbreaker, but Frost kicked Athena into the corner before cartwheeling into a cannonball. She got some really, really good offense in here tonight. You know, Athena's definitely on a warpath, but a lot of her matches have been just kind of glorified squashes. This was not the case, man. I mean, I thought this was a good showing for both women. And at one point, I thought Frost was absolutely going to go the time limit or maybe even get the pin here. So she went to the top rope, but Athena got up there and cut her off. She talked a little trash, which gave Frost a little bit of room to hit a hurricane kick and take her down. Frost went to the top rope and hit a beautiful corkscrew moonsault, but Athena rolled to the ropes to avoid a cover. Super veteran move from Athena. So Frost tried to pick Athena up, popped her up to a big forearm for the win. And after the match, Athena just did her signature move she's been doing to make everybody kiss that belt, slamming Frost's face into it. It's the commentary team was right on top of it. You know, Caprice Coleman was saying he loves Athena in the ring, but it's after the bell stuff that we're seeing that is just he can't stand. And man, I think this is I hope this is not the last we see of Lady Frost. I hope that she makes it down to Orlando for this bulk tapings because she's definitely got some talent, and I'm looking forward to seeing more out of her.
Yeah, I think Lady Frost was someone who I kind of pinpointed as developing this roster going forward. I think she's someone who has a place on it, and it speaks a lot about her getting a lot of offense in on Athena. I know this wasn't a long match by any means, but there were certain moments, as you mentioned, that Lady Frost got her shine, and Athena hasn't been really giving a lot of shine to a lot of people that don't deserve it, or they don't feel like something is going to come out of that person. So even though she didn't get past proving ground match earning a title shot, she still had the opportunity to look good against really the hottest woman heel, if not the hottest heel in all of ROH right now. And Lady Frost came out looking great. And I think people are going to know her name a little bit better going forward. And I think, like I said, the ROH women's division continues to prosper. And it's because of things like this, where a girl like Lady Frost can come in here, and we'll talk about Sky Blue in a little bit. These faces in ROH is going to be huge as a breeding ground for what will be a pretty awesome division as you continue to build it in a couple months.
Yeah, man, 100%. Looking forward to seeing more out of her. And, like I said, we'll get to Sky Blue later, and also her opponent, Diamante, tonight had a nice showing as well. So excited for the future of the women's division in ROH.
So we get a Kingdom backstage thing with talking about their frustrations in ROH lately with a lengthy video package. And they said instead of getting a rematch against the Briscoes at Final Battle, they lost the Top Flight. So they want to honor Jay Briscoe by winning the tag titles at Supercard of Honor. 4 other teams got in their way of doing that. And now at this point, they're not going to stop until they are able to get back of all the teams in the match. So they're pretty much planting the seeds for future programs with these other teams. And the Kingdom are going to be essential to developing this tag division. And they're going to be a big piece of what ROH is going to be in the future. And their connection with the Briscoe, especially during the Sinclair era of ROH, it's essential. And I don't think it will be long until we see them get those tag titles. And I think maybe the decision should have been putting the titles on them. And I know that they didn't know Ray Phoenix was going to need some time off, but I think the Kingdom probably would have been better suited winning these titles, especially you could have had that moment. I understand they're heels, but they also have the connection with the Briscoes. It still could have been an awesome moment with Briscoes and FTR following this, but I don't know. Maybe we'll see the Kingdom sooner than later win those titles.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I mean, I agree with you. It could have been a great moment, especially given their, relationship with Jay. You see everybody else wearing Jay Briscoe armbands, but, they, I know that Taven and Bennett lovingly referred to Jay as the captain. And you guys see him holding with armbands that see captain, which make it even more special, shows that they were definitely a little closer to him than some other folks. But I don't know. I think it's still, I'm still happy with the decision to not put him on him at this time, because it gives them that fuel to set him up to be, kind of uber heels going in. And, I like this package. It seemed a little, I don't know, out of order a couple of times, a little bit lengthy, but overall, I like where they're going with it. I like the idea of them getting revenge on every team that was in the match. That also sets up pretty good TV for the tag division. I mean, this was a tag team heavy show in general tonight, and I thought this was that's a good way to give Rey Fenix a little breathing room and give him some time to get healthy, but still keep the division alive and well.
Yeah, I think the frustrating part is that, Lucha Brothers won't be on TV for a little bit. And if you're taping in bulk, whether it be 4 or 6 episodes of ROH, that's 4 to 6 weeks of no tag team belts on the TV. And I don't know, I think you're leaving yourself a little bit hamstrung if you're not having them on the television. So I understand he's got to heal his injuries, but I'm saying like the booking of putting the titles on him, like we already had the title sort of held up for unfortunate and tragic reasons. Now they're held up for a different reason. And I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe like similar to what they did with Action Andretti and Top Flight, having, him fill in for them with Dante hurt, but maybe they'll have someone defend it with Penta. But I think at some point you're going to have the tag titles on TV. And if this is going to be 2 months without the tag titles, that's not a good thing. And I understand you could have a lot of stories. There's a lot of tag teams you can build up to eventually a match Death Before the Dishonor, which is in July. So you have a lot of time to get there. But it just sucks not having the tag titles visually on the TV from week to week.
Yeah, I agree. 2 months with no sign of Lucha Brothers is not a good move. So maybe that's an indication that we're going back to 2 hours of TV, and this bulk taping is only going to be 4 weeks. Or even if they do 8 weeks, might not be a bad idea to get Rey Fenix. If you can't get in the ring, at least have him and Penta show up, cut a promo, or at least, sit ringside and watch some of these matches and just kind of get an eye on the competition.
So the next match here is another tag team, La Facción Ingobernable, Preston Vance and Roosh, with Jose the Assistant in their corner, took on the Infantry, which is Carly Bravo and Sean Dean. We all know Sean Dean as being the guy who owns 2 wins over MJF, the current world champion AEW. Love that running bit. This match was pretty quick. This was, again, just a shining moment for Roosh and Preston Vance to get them a little bit built up. Roosh is someone who, as we mentioned before, I gave you the match last week for homework to watch. He is someone who could be a main eventer. And that was sort of the big piece here, that he shined big here. And Preston Vance looked very impressive too. I've been very impressed with Preston Vance as we move out of the Dark Order and having him take on a new persona without the mask. But yeah, this was something that was just a squash match. I mean, we got the discus lariats from Preston Vance, and then he tagged in Roosh. I mean, he just absolutely decimated Carly Bravo with the bull's horns. I mean, you want to talk about emphasizing a win here, exclamation point, twice over. I mean, this was just telling everybody LFI is a team to be reckoned with, and I thought it was good for a squash match.
Dude, I did too, and I was really happy to see Preston Vance in the ring. We've seen him come out with Roosh and Dralistico a couple times, but I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time we've seen him in the ring for ROH TV.
Yes, for ROH, yeah.
So yeah, man, I thought it was great. You can tell like Preston Vance is putting on some bulk. The brother's looking thick. Like it was good, and honestly, that was the best shot I've seen of a bull's horns in a long time, man. Like whoever was TD and got that cut to that camera at the perfect time, because I mean, it just rung Carly Bravo's bell. It rings everybody's bell, but man, he just looked like he was a million miles away once Roosh hit him. And man, yeah, definitely a squash match, but a good one. Shout out to Sean Dean and Carly Bravo. I love the Infantry. I got to see those guys at Derby City Wrestling. Went to a TV takeaway a couple of weeks ago. Those guys are up and down that show too for United Wrestling Alliance. And yeah, they're great. They're doing the job a lot in ROH, and that's fine. But still like seeing them. But yeah, I think as we were saying, tag heavy show and LFI, whether it's going to be Rush and Dralisco or Rush and Preston Vance, any combination of those three guys is it's going to be tough to beat.
So this next match here was another tag squash match. I just want to give a quick shout out to Joe Ocasio, Remarkable Wrestling Zone. Joe Ocasio, the Long Island Landmine. So I have the pleasure of working with him in the past. He's impressive, great look. And Trent Beretta, NYWC Bred. He's someone who came out of Long Island as well. So awesome to see both these guys mixing it up. But we have the best friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, taking on Joe Ocasio, Mookie Summers. So Ocasio got a little shine in the beginning of this match. But again, this was just to emphasize best friends as a tag unit. Like to see best friends here in ROH. Of course, they get the win, hit the Doomsday Knee. And at this point, would like to see best friends get featured in ROH. I kind of liked it. And I understand in AEW, I think, man, I would have loved it, best friends to get a tag push in AEW for the tag belts. I think it's well overdue at this point. But if you're not going to push them there, and if there's too much going on with FTR and other stuff going on, because of course you got to push Jeff Jarrett. Why wouldn't you push Jeff Jarrett? You have this tag team here, and I think they're great. They're so over. Fans love them, and I think it's awesome to see them getting some recognition here. And when was the last time we saw best friends on the good end of a squash match? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they've ever squashed anybody. It was cool to see that because they felt like stars here. And it was credit to Ocasio and Mookie Summers. They made, it's a two-part dance here. You got to make the guys taking the squash have to make the guys squashing look good.
Yeah, man, definitely. I mean, I always love to see Chucky T and Trent Beretta. Chuck Taylor is a Kentucky boy, so we always love seeing him down here. It's, you hit the nail on the head. I can't remember the last time I saw them on the winning end of a squash. I will say, not that they hit two back-to-back pile drivers on Mookie Summers. Mookie was tucking his head just a little bit too much there for my taste. It was not the best looking pile drivers, but I can let that go. I think they would be great in ROH, man. I would like to see them get a little bit more of a push. It'd be interesting to see whether that happens or not, because I could also see them, if and when Orange eventually loses the international title, maybe we see him back up with best friends and them make a run at the trios titles. Hard to say. So, I could see them doing well on either show. But I'm more than happy to see more of them on Ring of Honor. So hopefully they're down in Orlando and we get to see a little more of them.
So the guy who was in the news accompanied Brian Cage to the ring. That's Prince Nana, and he took on Leon Ruffin. So Ruffin is a dude who could take a fucking beating, and I think he's the perfect match partner for Brian Cage if you want to lead us down this. It was a squash match again, but it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was fun. It was a quality squash match, man. You got to love Ruffin. Call team definitely set this up as a true David and Goliath story, and you could not get any closer with the description there. I thought there for a minute this was just going to be a total flattened 30-second squash match, but the first 2 minutes Ruffin got a knee in on Brian Cage, and that was it. But Cage picked up Ruffin and was going to throw him for the F5, and Ruffin reversed the F5, which we haven't seen anybody do to Brian Cage. That's not a finisher that you pull a reversal on. So the crowd got behind Ruffin on that, man. It was pretty sweet. Ruffin went for a top rope crossbody. Cage caught him and dropped him with a front slam, curled him a few times before he did that. But he reversed that F5 and dropped him into the DDT. He did a good job evading him for a little bit, kind of running around and being quick. And he actually got a cutter on a Cage, which definitely looked like,
Cage crowd popped huge for that. They thought for a second they got him, which shows such a simplistic roadmap for a match can really create, which was there was no build up to this match, but in the story, there was so much to it. But it was so simple at the same time where they just wanted Leon Ruffin to get the win. That's what the crowd wanted it to happen.
Everybody loves an underdog story, man. It's a tale as old as time. It's never gonna get old. Every crowd is gonna love it. But it was nice to see Leon Ruffin get in some offense here. But man, Cage hit a spinning lariat that just turned him inside out. Hit a power bomb into another power bomb over a knee into a power bomb backbreaker, which at that point I was sure Cage was going for the pin, and then he got him in this brutal sharpshooter style submission hold where he essentially got him in a sharpshooter, but then also stomped on his head simultaneously, which was just Man, pretty hard to look at, to be honest
Brian
with you.
Cage is a killer. Like if you put some heat behind him, that guy is a killer. And I think if you book him like the Impact version of Brian Cage, like we see shades of that. I just want it in ROH. I want it so bad. I think he's so good.
I do too, man. And it's like, no disrespect to Gates of Agony, but I'd like to see Cage just get separated from them and he, get a big singles push because he's an absolute animal. And yeah, I just push him to the moon and just let him go buck wild. Like, also, hopefully, I haven't done any searching around, but this is like third or fourth week in a row we haven't seen anything from Gates of Agony. So I hope those dudes are all right. Hope to see them again soon.
I'm pretty sure one of them was on Dark. I think Khan was on Dark the other day. I'm almost positive. But yeah, they haven't been on ROH, which is interesting. It should be. We'll figure out what they're doing with these 6-man titles. Like we said, the tag titles are off TV, and also the 6-man titles weren't on this week. Of course, we saw it with Brian Cage, but we kind of want to see programs for these titles. And if they're not going to be used, then what's the point of these titles? But anyway, we have another tag match here, and another Long Island guy here, VSK from Creative Pro, Jeeves K, and Sonny Kiss with Slim J, aka the Trustbusters. There are hearty friends that they made such a good impact on us. The first 4 weeks of TV with that music over and over again, took on the Dark Order, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, Stu Grayson's nice to see him back. Of course, he made his return back in Toronto where the crowd popped huge for him, and he made his return after kind of a little hiatus out of AEW. Dark Order here is awesome. I mean, I love seeing Evil Uno and Stu Grayson go out here, and Super Smash Brothers from the Indies, so they are able to really tag team is their forte here, and the two of them probably the best combination of the Dark Order you can have as far as tag goes. I mean, you can make the argument Reynolds and Silver are great too, but I prefer Evil Uno and Stu Grayson myself. I just love how they go together and there's their body types and how interesting they are. So this match was the biggest story was the Righteous watching from the top of the stage, and they are sort of integrating themselves into some stories here. And I think the big piece here is that are they trying to get Evil Uno or Stu Grayson to join forces? Are they looking at them to potentially feud with them? We're not sure what the Righteous, what they want. And I think that's cool because there's some Charles Manson level mystery to them. And I think that's like, it's cool that we sat here following the match, but the story was at the top of the ramp. And sometimes you need that.
Yeah, man. The Righteous are my favorite thing about Ring of Honor right now. And I love that we are slow burning it and we have really no idea what their true intentions are. I love it when their music hits. Love seeing them both come out. I completely agree with you, man. I think that Evil Uno and Stu Grayson are, even though, no disrespect to Silver and Reynolds, I think they are my preference of a tag team coming out of the Dark Order. Good match. Also cool to see Sonny Kiss. Haven't seen her in a long time. I was really enjoyed her tagging with Joey Janela in the early days of AEW. So thought she looked great tonight, but not sure how I feel about her being aligned with the Trustbusters, but that's neither here nor there. Just really good showing, tandem offense all around from Stu Grayson and Evil Uno. I think there's I don't know. I'd be interested to see where this story goes, whether they're trying to feud with these guys or they're trying to lure Stu Grayson. I definitely don't think they're trying to lure both of them. I think they definitely are showing, when at the end of the match, when Evil Uno and Stu Grayson were walking up the ramp, you could see they really didn't pay much attention to Evil Uno. He was definitely kind of talking some shit to him, but, they didn't really give much of a reaction. And, as soon as Stu Grayson kind of got an eye line with Vincent, and he was all claps. He was really, really eyeing him hard. It's going to be the mind games are, I'm all for them, man. It's going to be cool to see where it is. I think it would be an incredible storyline if Stu were to kind of get brainwashed by this cult figure in Vincent and turn on Evil Uno and Dark Order. It's just a lot of meat on the bone there, and I can't wait to see what they do.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're telling it on the ROH programming because it seems, I mean, I know the Righteous are ROH, but I feel like the Dark Order has always been an AEW vehicle. So it's, I don't know, maybe we're transitioning over and maybe the Righteous have some sort of, I don't know. They're gonna pull them over, or they're gonna join forces, or they're gonna get rid of. I don't know. I'm definitely intrigued by this, and it's cool to have this mid card subset storyline that we don't know what's gonna happen at the end of the day.
I like seeing Dark Order on Ring of Honor, and I'm totally okay with them making the move to being exclusively on ROH TV, because I've always liked Dark Order, but there just hasn't seemed to be enough room or enough time for them to do with for AEW to do with them what they deserve to have their story be told. I just feel like it's always kind of been stunted. It's always kind of been started and stopped. So yeah, really looking forward to them getting a little bit more time. I think Ring of Honor, I think they've got the space for it, and I think it's a good platform for them.
Yeah, I 100% think you're right. I think they've always been this like side plot with either Hangman and whatever it is. They're always just the bridesmaid, not the bride, for lack of a better, saying. And I think here they get the appropriate shine. And I think we see a lot from Evil Uno, especially that match he had with Moxley. I think he showed a different side of himself to the casual audience. And people that are familiar with Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, their work on the independents, on the lead up to working, in AEW with a big promotion, they have a lot more to give than they have been giving on AEW television. I think this might be the perfect place to showcase them if there's a spot for them. And it seems like there is. And there's a lot of story to be told. And we could tell a really good story with the Righteous, and it doesn't have to be over a championship belt. It could just be over old-fashioned type of mind games, as you mentioned, and have friendships come to question. And that's, like you said, tale as old as time. And I'm curious what they're going to do with the Righteous. And it's interesting to see the Righteous was rumored to go to WWE, and I can't imagine this presentation would have been taken and done as well as it's been done in such a short period of time here in ROH, because WWE doesn't allow these guys, Vincent and Dutch, to be the guys that they could be.
Right. Yeah. They're back home, and they're right where they're supposed to be. And I mean, we haven't even seen them. They haven't even entered the ropes yet. They haven't been into the ring once. So yeah, there's just, I can't wait to see where it goes.
So we have Chris Daniels in the back. He's with Dasha Fuentes, and he was talking about just his journey through ROH. And he said, last week was one of the lowest points of his career, and he's going to earn his keep in ROH. But he wouldn't start at the bottom. He just said straight up, Samoa Joe, I'm calling you out. We have a long history. I want a TV title shot. Respect the fact that I am one of the, for lack of a better term, pillars of ROH. And I want to get back. And dude, I just love Chris Daniels. And you want to talk about a veteran who people can learn around. And I'm sure he's helping put together matches. And he's such a wealth of knowledge for anyone that wants to talk to him. But in the ring, learning on the fly, of having him there. And I understand Samoa Joe doesn't have to learn from him, but everyone can learn a lot by deconstructing their matches, and other guys that Chris Daniels can work with. It's such a blessing to have him in this fold because of all the knowledge he can give to the younger talent and beyond.
Yeah, he's really, really a gift to this new era of Honor. And, anybody that has an opportunity to sit under his learning tree should sit under it as long as they can. I thought this was a cool segment. I thought it was neat how he was, open and critical of his performance and where he's at so far. And I'm all for seeing. I can't wait to hear Joe's response. I'm all for seeing this match. There's a history of brutality between these two guys, and definitely ready for the next chapter.
So the next match we have here, you mentioned before, we talked about the women's division. This was another showcase for two pretty talented young women here that they're looking to build around, Sky Blue and Diamante, if you want to lead us through.
Yeah, man. So Sky Blue, she's, I believe, she's 3-0 in Ring of Honor coming into this match tonight. This is the first time we're seeing Diamante. I'm not super familiar with Diamante's work, but man, she's got a great look. And she definitely showed out tonight. So an early pinning predicament sent Diamante scurrying to the ropes. She caught Blue in the ropes and hit a neck breaker before sending her to the floor with a baseball slide. Diamante worked over Blue pretty well before Blue started fighting back, and she hit a crossbody off the rope for a near fall early on. But Sky Blue hit a rising knee and a low kick that sent Diamante to the apron. They got into a forearm exchange before Diamante caught Blue with a German suplex on the apron. I did not see that one coming, man. That was a nice, quite the show out and of physical strength in your first match in your debut on Ring of Honor. She hit a corner drop kick, but Blue got to the ropes on the cover. Diamante tried rolling through a skyfall attempt, and Blue ended up stuffing the roll up for the win. So not exactly how I saw this going. I did not expect Sky Blue to lose, but I figured she was going to hit her skyfall, but rolled her up. Quick match, but good show for both. Excited to see more from Diamante. After the match, Athena came out with a Sky Blues custom flat bill and stomped on it. And, Caprice and Riccaboni had already kind of alluded to how Sky Blue would be, potentially a good opponent to a good contender for the women's title. And I thought this was great to have Athena come out and kind of have that ceremonial fuck you to her to, pour a little salt in the wound and get this feud going.
Yeah, and I think Sky Blue is another good example of utilizing ROH television to get some reps in. And of course, there's that fine line that we always talk about. You don't want it to be developmental. You don't want it to feel lesser than. But Sky Blue is someone who's just right now, the women's division AEW is very top heavy as far as programming goes between obviously the Outcasts and you got the Britt Baker stuff going on and Jamie Hayter. Like you have a lot going on that Sky Blue doesn't have the opportunity to be on TV, especially when there's only 3 hours of main TV between Rampage and Dynamite. This is a good place to put her. And I think having a program with Athena is essential to, and it could be pivotal in her career as she continues to get some reps in and figure out a way to get better from week to week. She still has a lot to learn. And I think we've seen on AEW television where she's had some exposure. I think she wrestled Jade Cargill in a match for the TBS title and match left a little bit to be desired. And I think you could see the raw skills in Sky Blue. You could see why Tony Khan is high on her. And I think working with Athena, well, she'll only get better. And I think, holding her own and Athena leading the charge here, whether this is the main program they go into July with, I probably don't think they're going to be doing that. But just having a short mini program and eventually ending with a title match with Athena, if she's even in a losing effort, she can walk away just just having to be better for it. And I think a big piece of Sky Blue is she just has to learn and work with quality opponents. And she's working with a lot of them here in ROH in big matches, not shorter matches. She's having whether it be independent talent or working with someone like Athena, this will be huge for her going forward. Because I think AEW has big plans for her. I really do. I think she's someone they see a lot in, and maybe people see that they don't. I can just tell that there's a lot of raw talent and charisma that's there that just needs to be tapped into and really shaped into what she could be on the main roster.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. And I don't think it's going to make it all the way to July. I think this will be, a title shot before we make it to the pay-per-view. And I think that'll be a great transition into hopefully getting Willow getting another shot going into the pay-per-view, because that's definitely what I think me and all the people want to see. But yeah, Sky Blue's got a lot of potential, man. And one thing I'm most excited about this program with her and Athena is that not only is she going to get some shine from Athena, but she's going to be there's no way you work yourself into a program with Athena right now without having to get on the mic and cut some promos and hone your mic skills. So, we haven't seen a whole lot from her on the mic, and I'm excited to see what she's got. And, you only get better with repetition when it comes to talking. And I think I'm excited to see what she's got.
So next match here, we have a return in Rocky Romero to AEW / Ring of Honor television. We haven't seen Rocky in some time. New Japan Pro Wrestling's Rocky Romero. We saw him teaming with Best Friends for a bit when Chuck Taylor was hurt, but he took on Lee Moriarty and he had Big Bill in his corner. And this is Lee Moriarty's hometown of Pittsburgh. So as soon as he came out, people were behind him. It was quite obvious he was the favorite going in. And this is the difference between WWE and AEW. And of course, this is ROH, but this is by all intents and purposes a Tony Khan thing. And when someone's in their hometown, I think Vince has this weird obsession with making guys get humbled in their hometown, especially young guys. I go back to, thinking about guys in the past. I mean, you can go down the list of Mustafa Ali when he got a U.S. title shot in Chicago. They took great pleasure in embarrassing him in a losing fashion. It's just one of those things WWE's always done. But on the other side, Tony Khan on whatever brand he's running, whether it be ROH or AEW, he does a good job of making these guys shine, and it doesn't hurt anybody. A guy like Lee Moriarty doesn't get a lot of big wins. He's another guy who's very talented, but not a lot of room on TV to do things with. And a guy like Lee Moriarty, I think, could have been well equipped. He was someone I kind of penciled for the BCC. I thought he could have been great with them as far as a young talent goes. And maybe we'll see that down the line as far as being mentored and stuff. But I liked kind of the presentation of Lee Moriarty here. And Rocky Romero is just, man, he is so talented. You can tell he's world traveled. He has such the ability to lift the game of someone like Lee Moriarty up. And there were some very, very hard hitting spots here. Romero was really testing him, and we got a lot of cool things like arm submissions in between some near falls and roll ups and some strike battles in the middle of the ring, a New Japan Pro Wrestling style match here. But it was really awesome to see the end here with Rocky catching Lee with a Hurricane Rana straight to the floor, which he bumped great for. And then a dive, which was caught by Big Bill, which, I mean, he's so great on the outside. Reminds me of Diesel back in the day with Shawn Michaels. And I honestly love with Big Bill has done, whatever you want to call him, Big Cass. I thought he's really shaped up his look. He's toned up. He looks amazing. I'm shocked someone like Impact wouldn't want to put like a big boost behind him, but I think he's super talented and has a lot behind him. And but we got a choke slam from Big Bill, choke slamming right on the apron. Ref was distracted. Unfortunately for Rocky Romero, he was on the receiving end of the hardest part of the ring. Lee Moriarty hit the leg lariat, got the 3 count. This was a very good match. I was very impressed with both these dudes. I was kind of shocked to see Lee Moriarty got the win here. I was really shocked because seeing Rocky Romero return, and I understand he's not being presented as this main eventer. He never was on AEW television, but this was a really good match. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, man. Same here. Always good to see Rocky. Haven't seen him in a while, and yeah, the guy's just he's incredible. I always love getting a chance to see him work. I always, after last week with Takeshita versus Lee Moriarty, I wanted more Lee Moriarty on ROH TV, and we got it. So I was glad to see it. He was definitely presented much more like a heel this week than he was last week versus Takeshita. A lot of that is just having Big Bill out there in his corner as his second and, interfering. But, definitely liked seeing that presentation of him a little bit more. It kind of, I was wondering if that's what we were going to get from Lee Moriarty moving forward in ROH. And, because if we weren't going to get him presented as a heel, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me to continue to have him paired or affiliated with the firm. So good to see that they're doubling down on that. But yeah, it was kind of a toss up. I thought whole match to see, who was going to get the win here, but, cool to see Moriarty get the win in his hometown. And even cooler, after the match, we got to a backstage segment with Rocky Romero cutting a killer promo and calling Moriarty out next week for a Pure Rules match. Dude, we were saying this last week when we were talking about the Takeshita Lee Moriarty match, that I would love to see Lee Moriarty in a Pure Rules match, whether that be for the championship or just in an exhibition against somebody. So really excited that we're getting to see a chapter 2 with Rocky Romero and Lee Moriarty, and be really cool to see both those guys work within those parameters.
Rocky Romero referred to himself as the king of sneaky style, which was awesome. And I think that we hear king of strong style, we hear king of whatever, but king of sneaky style I've never heard before, and I thought it was really awesome. And this mini feud too, really good story. And like you said, I think Lee Moriarty could be someone, like I mentioned with the BCC. I thought like when they were first they first did it with Moxley and Danielson, talked about young talent. Daniel Garcia was someone I thought about, but Lee Moriarty I thought about as well. I think he's someone who has a huge future, and he winds up being sort of on the back burner with a lot of the AW talent, and really awesome to see him here, especially in the Pure Rules while he's in ROH. Let him do the things that he's doing, and working with Rocky Romero could be awesome for a kind of a mini little program here.
Yeah, man, excited to see it. Looking forward to next week, and I hope just in general we get to see more Rocky Romero in Ring of Honor.
And the next match here is our main event of the evening. Gringo Loco is returning for the second week in a row, taking on Blake Christian. So some GCW flair here. Like, this is not a GCW Fight TV pay-per-view that you purchase. No, this is on ROH TV, and both these guys have a lot to prove, especially, I mean, Blake Christian's been on our TV for quite some time. This is Gringo Loco's second appearance on ROH, and it seems like he's here to stay. Tony Khan was very happy with him with the match he had with Vikingo last week. But walk us through this match. It did get ended abruptly. There was some confusion at the end, and you had texted me like, was that supposed to be the ending? It felt very confusing and disjointed, but alas, that was our main event.
Yeah, man, kind of unfortunate the way that it ended up, but it was still, for the, I believe, 9 minutes that we got out of it, it was still really, really cool showing between both of these guys. I mean, Gringo Loco versus Vikingo last week was absolutely fucking incredible, and I couldn't think of a better pairing. Like who's he going to go up against next week? Having him go against Blake Christian was great, man. I mean, the Caprice and Riccaboni said, I mean, these are the two. This is American luchador style at its best, is these two guys. When you think of two American guys who do lucha libre, this is it, man. This is the expo. And, like I said, it was quick, but I mean, both guys got some incredible moves in, man. I don't even know what you call that move where Gringo Loco took Blake Christian off the top rope into like almost a spinning, almost like Samoan drop or Death Valley driver. But I thought that was incredible. Like, I didn't even know who was going to be on the business end of that until they got up. And like I said, it definitely didn't seem like it was supposed to end where it was, but Blake Christian hit one of the best Spanish flies I've seen maybe ever. It was really turned him inside out, man. I'm glad that, you and I were talking about it. You did a little research, and it seems like it was actually a referee kind of mistake on his end that finished the match where it was. Because I was really surprised, when Blake Christian came up with the win. Not that Blake Christian isn't talented enough to beat Gringo Loco or doesn't deserve the win, but just kind of surprised me that we're going to see Gringo Loco get beat 2 weeks in a row on his first 2 weeks in Ring of Honor. So I'm hoping we can. I'm glad to see that neither guy is hurt. That was my first inclination, is that maybe Gringo Loco got injured and they had to call an audible and finish it right then and there. So really glad to see that that's not the case, and hope that we get to see these guys in another match sooner rather than later, because they definitely deserve another pass at it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because since this is taped, they probably could have fixed it. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen editing, we've seen them place matches in certain spots. They could have just restarted the match and, I don't know, find a place to just continue it. But they stuck with it. It felt disjointed. It felt awkward at the end, but sometimes it happens. I mean, there's people that make mistakes, whether it be the ring announcer or the timekeeper or the referee or the guys in the ring themselves. The finishes aren't always perfect, and this is pro wrestling. So you go with the flow. This wasn't a title match. This wasn't for anything that was consequential. It was just a showcase match, and both these guys looked good. They showed out, did their moves, and people will walk away remembering the good things from this. And this is not the last time we're going to see them match up, whether it be in GCW or ROH. These guys are continuing. They're young guys that continue to hone their craft, and they're so fucking talented. Like Blake Christian and Gringo Loco continue to show why they are being showcased on this stage. These guys, from working small arenas in GCW and their local places that they work at, but GCW especially, to working AEW, a guy like Blake Christian, he may get heat at the Showboat because the fans don't like him, and it's become kind of tongue in cheek at this point. But there's no denying that All Heart is just, he's undeniable. And I think Blake Christian has a huge future in wrestling. And it's so, you mentioned the Spanish Fly, shout out to the SAT, the inventor of the moves, the Spanish Fly, but just how easy both these guys make things look. And Blake Christian, the Spanish Fly is just one example of it, but the Fosbury flops that we're seeing and the dives and just how smooth the transitions are from the side kicks to arm drags to anything that should be complicated and should have a little bit of hiccup. These guys are like watching poetry in motion. You mentioned American Lucha. That's really what it was. It's smooth as butter. Like, these guys have, aside from the finish, these guys, when they linked up, they were just finding ways to just, it's poetry in motion, and it's a beautiful thing. And the future is very bright for these guys. And it's cool to see them showcase in the main event.
Yeah, man, most definitely. And, just going back to the finish and the way it all went down, yeah, it's taped, but I've actually got a lot of respect for them calling it like they did and going like that, because, that just does kind of stay true to kayfabe and doesn't, we didn't just go back and restart the match, because that could have written, like, yes, would have been a better finish for TV, sure, but that also really just kind of like rips the curtain off and just shows the crowd like, oh yeah, we fucked up, we're going to do this. It kind of gives it, I like that it kind of protects the business a little bit, and also gives everybody the experience to what to do in a situation like that, because like I said, we didn't know until we looked it up. Like I said, it could have been any number of things. Could have been one of the guys got hurt, something else happened. So I don't know. It sucks if something like that happens, but I respect that they didn't restart the match. I thought it was cool that they just, kind of rolled with it and got out how they got out, and, we'll do it again.
So that was the ROH TV tapings. Let's move on to our top honors and talk about our favorite part of this hour of ROH TV. All right, Colton, what was your favorite part of this week of ROH TV from April 27th, 2023?
Man, I think it's got to be the Lee Moriarty Rocky Romero match, man. It's with it being just an hour, it makes it a little bit easier to pick. But yeah, I gotta say, really cool. Like, I love both these guys. Excited to see Lee Moriarty for a second week in a row. Super excited to see Rocky Romero. Told a great story and set up a nice mini program going into next week for this Pure Rules match.
I agree with that. I think it's such a great match, but just for the sake of disagreeing for a sec, I'm going to go with the Brian Cage and the Leon Ruffin squash match. Just the very simplistic story told within the match. It didn't have to exist in this long program. It just shows pro wrestling personified could just be told simply. If there was no words, if there was no commentary, what was going on. Like you said, it was little versus big. It was, everything you wanted in wrestling where someone was overcoming odds, the underdog. It just was absolutely perfectly done. And sometimes the underdog doesn't come out on top. Like, even though probably everyone wanted Leon Ruffin to win with a quick roll up, Brian Cage overcame and he continued to squash him down and got the win. So it just kind of shows you it's not always a storybook ending. And wrestling sometimes wants to book these storybook endings, but sometimes it's so good not to do that because it's just as good to get the crowd, get the air sucked out of them. Sometimes that's even more effective of a finish because you got them believing for a second and then Brian Cage ripped it right out of him. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was good.
All right, let's get to honorable mentions. Talk about the match that I picked for you last week and also the match I have picked for you this week. All right, so every week in alignment with the history of ROH, I will recommend one match for Colton to check out, and I recommended one last week, so tell me what you thought about it.
Man, this match was great. Samoa Joe versus Kenta Kobashi, October 1st, 2005. Holy shit, man. This one was awesome. It was, first of all, one of the hottest crowds I've ever heard, period, ever. Like, I meant to look up. I don't know, where were they for this show? Do you know off the top of your head?
Not the top of my head. I want to say it was like Rhode Island or something like that.
Yeah, it was not a place they always went. It was definitely a room I didn't recognize just off site for classic ROH matches, but man, it was awesome. The crowd was super hot. And just to start off the match, this is not the first time these guys have met. Love seeing these guys go against each other. Joe just slaps the shit out of Kobashi to the face, gets him up on the ropes. These guys always start slow. But man, Samoa Joe is, I mean, it's no secret to anybody, but especially in 2005, this guy is so agile for a big man. It's out of control, man. These baseball slides, these suicide dives through the ropes, just absolutely incredible. I mean, perfectly honest, first 10 minutes of this match, Joe is in total control. Like, Kobashi is not getting much offense in the first 10 minutes whatsoever until they take it out to the outside of the ring. Kobashi's in a chair. Joe big boots him, separates the barricade from the impact, and then Kobashi finally starts heating up a little bit. Gets it in on Joe, gets him in a chair, chops him in the stomach, and flops him over the barricade from a chop. Man, I mean, you don't get this entire match was strikes and submission holds. This was a wrestling fan. This was a wrestling fans and a wrestlers wrestling match to a T. Just brutal exchanges the entire time. The knife edge chops that Kenta was putting down on Joe, like they get back into the ring, gets Joe down, just coming all the way down, full stand down to his knees with these knife edge chops into the chest of Joe. Just absolutely brutal, man. About 16 minutes in, has got to be the most intense chop exchange, top 5 most intense chop exchange I've ever seen between these guys. And then Kobashi gets Joe into this abdominal stretch, and at this point, I'm thinking this is done, but it is definitely not. He transitions into a half Nelson suplex. Kobashi hits 3 of these half Nelson suplexes on Joe before it's all said and done. And at this point, Kobashi's kicked out of the Muscle Buster before he hits any of these. Just this match was just nonstop hits over and over and over. That second half Nelson suplex he hit on him, man, I thought Joe was dead. He hit his head, and it was like he did not move at all. Like, he was lucky enough to land where he could get his hand on a rope. That's the only way it saved him right there. And then, man, I mean, Joe and Kobashi, they get into the corner, and Kobashi gets the upper hand on Joe, and I lost count of how many times he chops him in the corner, but I swear to God, it was over 40. Like it was just like 3 minutes straight of him just chopping the shit out of him. And man, yeah, the finish was great. You know, he hits another suplex on him. He kicks out, and then he just gets him up, chops him into a lariat, and then knocks him down. Man, this is the first time I've ever heard a match of the year chant ever, I think. Yeah. And I was like, man, yeah, this definitely had to have been a contender for match of the year. I got on PWI's archive, and sure enough, it was 100% match of the year for 2005. So 5 stars all around. Yeah, this was a great one, man. This was an excellent. I mean, you've never given me a bad recommendation, but this might have been my favorite so far.
So this was actually in New York. I should have known that from here. New York City, the New Yorker Hotel Grand Ballroom, capacity of 800. So they don't usually when they run New York, they don't run there typically, but this was an event built around this match, dream match, and awesome stuff from 05. Like you said, match of the year, just incredible stuff. And if you guys have not seen the match, it's pro wrestling, just absolutely turned up to 11. And it's amazing stuff where I could watch it over and over again. But the match I have for you here is a couple years in the future from 05. It's 2009 from April 18th. It's a tag team match. So it's Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards, the American Wolves, taking on the great tag team of Bryan Danielson and Tyler Black, a.k.a. Seth Rollins.
Hell
and
yeah.
This is at an event called Tag Title Classic. And like I said, it's April 18th, 2009. So this is a team of, Tyler Black. This is the early emergence of, he's not Seth Rollins yet. He's yet to do the things he's going to do in the future, but you can see the emerging stardom of Tyler Black here, and what Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards go on to do too. That can't be dismissed either. This is just absolute 4 legends going out there. And I think the word to describe this match is chaos. And this match, there was a point in the match where it was so methodical that they slowed it down to the point where they kind of felt like they lost the crowd, like not lost, but they were a little bit quiet. But the main thing I pulled from this match, and I want you to check out, is watch the selling of everything that's done. It feels like everything is done with an intention. And we watch in these long form matches. You can even go back to the Iron Man match with MJF and Bryan Danielson, where, Danielson's even better at it now, but selling the exhaustion and selling your face in the pain. And eventually when Bryan Danielson had to tap out and do what he did at the end of the Iron Man match, it's similar here, where you can feel the exhaustion from all 4 guys that they've just tapped into a reserve that they've never had to tap into before. And there was some great technical wrestling in this and just drama built in. And I just love to see a team of Bryan Danielson, Tyler Black, just 5 years before that they'll be kind of feuding, with him in the Shield and Bryan Danielson going for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania. Like, it's cool to see. And this is what's the benefit of having the ROH legacy and all the culmination of this video library, is because you have things like this where WWE doesn't own Tyler Black's early entry into the wrestling world. AEW does. And it's awesome. And, obviously Eddie Edwards and Davey Richards have Impact lore tied with them, and Impact will probably, all they do is pick up the phone and just ask Tony to use it if they ever want to use footage like that. But it's awesome to see, because they could show this at any given time if they want to show some highlight package, and there's nothing WWE can do about it. But you could definitely tell Tyler Black was going to be a huge fucking star just watching this match. And he only gets better, but he is fucking damn good here.
Hell yeah, man. I'm looking forward to this one. I've seen very, very little of Seth Rollins' work as Tyler Black in Ring of Honor, so looking forward to that. And you're talking about selling, man. Eddie Edwards is one of the best sellers in the fucking business. So, yeah, looking forward to this one a lot.
All right, let's get to the final handshake, and we're going to give a wrap up and preview next week. And, Colton's going to give some things going on his end. All right, so next week's show will be 5/4. Believe it or not, we're already in May 4th, for the weekly TV show on ROH that was taped yesterday. We're going to be talking about the latest news in ROH. Maybe we'll have more than 2 stories. Going to be tying in, obviously, Ring of Honor history to fill in the gaps. We're going to go through line by line, building up that path to death before dishonor. But before we get there, at mullet.mania, what's going on in your world? Debate this week. I know you weren't on, but what else is going on in your world? Hype it up here.
Man, so yeah, not on this week, but I actually am going to be the guest. I'm going to be in the guest seat on the debate next week. So looking forward to doing that. Keep an eye on mullet.mania on Instagram. I usually don't do a whole lot over there other than put over Honor Society and the tavern in general. But I'm going to be entering a mullet competition coming up in the next couple months. So be on the lookout for some fresh pics of this beautiful waterfall. So yeah, man. But other than that, as we always say, turnbuckletavern.com. Please go like, subscribe, tag us in all, your favorite shit. We're everywhere, man. Spotify, Apple, YouTube, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, Pro Wrestling Tees. Go get some shirts. Yeah, man. Like I said, the Instagram continues to blow up. Thank you guys for the love. But yeah, we love what we're doing. We're officially got pro wrestling content out 7 days a week, a different show. So if you like it, we're talking about it.
Make sure you guys check out Shot Nostalgia tomorrow. We have 3 episodes of Raw. Mike Belcaster and I recorded this afternoon. It was very, very good. We are building up towards SummerSlam 98, which will be next week. So some great stuff we talked about, and they're just building up this path. And WWF 1998 is just off to a raring start. We're at episode 13 out of 22, which will be, it's going to be here before you know it. End of June is when we're done with season 3. Moving on to season 4, we're doing 7 episodes of Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And then we don't have what season 5 is yet, but Belcaster and I already decided. I didn't announce it yet, but we dropped some hints in the last episode that you guys can pick up, and you'll pretty much know what we're doing. So if you listen carefully enough, you'll know exactly what we're doing. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. And also, if you guys can, go to my link tree, pick up tickets to Danger Zone 2, Remarkable Wrestling. We had an awesome show. Thank you, everyone that came out to Cream of the Crop 2 last weekend. I had a great time in Coram, New York at the All-Star Arena, our debut there, which is Gabriel Sky's hometown. An absolutely epic match between Gabriel Sky and Ken Broadway. 3 stages of hell for the Remarkable Championship, culminating in the third fall, which was a ladder match. Crazy, crazy sunset flip that Gabriel Sky hit on Ken Broadway off the top of the ladder, reminiscent of Eddie Guerrero and RVD on that Raw Intercontinental title ladder match. And it will be on IWTV in the coming weeks. It wasn't live for technical difficulties, but they taped it. They're going to edit it, put the commentary from Struggles on there from IWTV, and it's going to be on there soon. So make sure you guys check it out. Announcing. So it was a great, great show. Had a great time. I felt like, and I say this every time, but I felt like Remarkable Wrestling's best effort. And I know Danger Zone 2 is going to even top that. We got Shannon Thomas versus Gabriel Sky for the Remarkable Championship. It's going to be amazing. There's some other matches that aren't announced yet, but I know what they are. You do not want to miss it. So please come out. It's a affordable night of entertainment, and it doesn't get better than Remarkable Wrestling as far as independent wrestling goes.
Hell yeah, man. That sounds awesome. I've really been digging Shot of Nostalgia. Excited for Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Excited for the wrap up of this Raw too, man. So yeah, you guys are doing great shit.
I appreciate it, and I'm looking forward to doing Smoky Mountain Wrestling too. The thing is, we don't know about it is that it's going to be 7 episodes. We're going to be doing 2 months per episode, and there's going to be the last episode will be like December, and we're going to cover full month. I think it's going to be crazy. It's going to be 8 episodes per show. I don't know what's going to be in the newsletter. I really haven't looked. There is a section in Meltzer's newsletter talking about the news in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, some of the faces that are there: Chris Jericho, Lance Storm, Brian Lee, New Jack. There's other things going on there too. So Jim Cornette, obviously, Dutch Mantel. All of the episodes are available on YouTube as I speak. Knock on wood. Hopefully they are not taken down. I've been watching them just to kind of put them out there. It is fascinating, and it's going to be a different thing, but similar to the ECW season, it's a short abbreviated version that we're doing jam-pack information in there, and it's out of our comfort zone, which challenges myself and Mike Belcaster to stretch our fandom. It's so easy to sit here and talk about WWF because I watched it. Smoky Mountain Wrestling, I'm going to be watching for the first time for the most part and learning on the fly and talking about the influential storylines. And they were only in existence for a short period of time, but they're still remembered very fondly. So I'm very, very, very happy to get into it and see what they have to offer.
Oh yeah, man. There's definitely some fun in there too, going and seeing something for the first time, something from the past that you're getting to check out with in your adult life. So yeah, you guys are gonna kill it, and you guys are gonna have a lot of fun with it.
I appreciate that. And that's all we got for you guys. We'll catch you guys next week. Like I said, May 4th for the weekly TV show. Do not forget, and always abide by the code of honor. We'll see you guys next week.